2:1. But speak thou the things which become it sound doctrine, that the aged women likewise, that they be in behavior, as become it holiness, not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things, that they may teach the women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of God be not blasphemed. Chaste conversations.
Welcome back to Chaste Conversation, sisters. And we have Sister Ishaya, Sister Deborah, Sister Shalom May in the house this evening. And we are just having a discussion about just reaching our youth and how we can be role models.
This touched my heart because there's just so much going on with our children that have no idea about what's going on, may not have any guidance, have no idea or understand some of what God is asking of them. And so
Right.
the foundation scriptures of this study will be in Psalm 78.
Yes.
Starting at verse 1.
Give ear, O my people, to my law.
Mm,
Incline your ears to the words of my mouth.
this is so beautiful.
Mhm.
This is so beautiful. Our people, the laws that God had given us, this is what is needed so much today. Our children have so many of our children that are not in this book or have been lied to or have no access to this at this time or are closing their ears to not want to hear or not wanting to engage in conversation. Continue, sis, verse 2.
Time. Verse 2. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old.
Whew. Continue.
Verse 3. Which we have heard and known, and our fathers have told us.
Pause. We come from a lineage as Hebrew Israelites, as the chosen one to be able to come to this book today, to receive the guidance, to receive the ear. And some of us, even though we may be adults, may also be children and young to this word. So as we're growing in this word, we're helping our children, our young children of age to understand this as well. And as we come in, it's beautiful when they talk about the parable because coming into the New Testament, you know, Jesus Christ, so-called Jesus Christ, Yahweh Shai, that's what he ended up teaching in order for us to have an ear to hear. Verse 4, sis.
Time. Verse 4. We will not hide them from our children. No, we will not hide them from their children, showing to the generation to come the praises of the Lord and his strength and his wonderful works that he had done. Verse 5. For he established a testimony in Jacob and appointed a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers that they should make them known to their children. that the generation to come might know them, even the children which should be born, who should arise and declare them to their children.
Hmm. This is important. There's several words here that I want to highlight. The word established, the word testimony, our father Jacob, a law, Israel, commanded, make it known, make them known. Read 7.
Verse 7, that they might set their hope in God and not forget the works of God, but keep his commandments.
I was a grown woman, but my heart was so young. My mind was so young because I was not told the truth about our heritage, about our relationship with the Most High, what that was supposed to be, the relationship with Jehovah Shai Mashiach, Jesus Christ. And I hope as we go further into this study today, this is what so much of us and our children and our youth are requiring, because they open TikTok and Facebook and Instagram and shake your booty on YouTube and so on and so forth without realizing that you can use it. It's useful for learning what you need to learn to grow and be a grown, mature, and develop and educate yourself to be a respectable person in the community. Instead, they're putting some hope in some other things, but the commandments that are so much of the foundation of what keeps us going is remembering that he gave us commandments. He gave us a law that we are to follow.
I want to read verse 8, still in Psalm 78, because there's something to be said, the fact that I think we had brought it up before, that we learn a lot of things from our upbringings and what was passed down to us in generationally, or what we call tradition, and so verse 8 is saying, okay, so after it says to not forget the works of God, but keep his commandments in verse 7, verse 8 goes to say, and might not be as their fathers, a stubborn and rebellious generation. And if we read our Bibles and precept that, to know that stubbornness is as the sin of witchcraft.
Yep.
Okay. That they might not be as their fathers, as their parents, pretty much, yes. Right? A stubborn and rebellious generation. A generation that set not their heart aright, meaning looking towards the things of your creator, of your God that put you here in this body, that you soaking up his air. He's the reason for you getting up every day, for all of us breathing and having the ability that we have in our limbs, in our sight, in touch, in smell. Okay? A generation that set not their heart aright in him, and whose spirit was not steadfast with God. Okay? So coming back to him, coming out of your traditions and what was passed down from grandma, grandpa, great grandma, that goes against this word. That's all I wanted to bring out real quick.
Well, since you brought out that verse 8, let's go to 2nd Esdras, chapter 5, verse 8, because we were about to talk about what happens when parents are rebellious,
there shall be a confusion also in many places, and the fire shall be oft sent out again, and the wild beasts shall change their places, and the menstruous women shall bring forth monsters.
my husband read that verse to me, and I went, uh-oh, because we have some children coming in.
Wow.
We have some children coming into the world right now.
Hmm.
Whoa,
Mm-hmm.
whoa.
Mm-hmm. They coming out what's that singing it coming out worse than the former? Like, you know how you reproducing something from something that ain't good?
Oh,
So you're coming out worse than your dad. You worse than your mom, you know? Proverbs 22, verse 6.
yes.
Train up a child in the way he should
2
go,
and 26, huh?
and when he is old, he will not depart from it.
And I'm going to share, I am not a mom. I have not buried any children, but I've been working with children for almost 30 years with, a job that the Most High has, blessed me with. And as I've been in the truth, I have used the beauty and the wisdom of the scriptures to help me best understand how to support them. And verse 6, train up a child. And we know there are more single mothers raising their children today. There are more maybe fathers raising their children by themselves, grandparents raising their children. We have more children in the system being adopted, especially our children. And so when we train ourselves to stay within the knowledge of the commandments and the laws, we're going to have more preparation in training up our children,
Right.
no matter where those children are,
Right.
including our camps, our classes, Chase Made, right here, where this is an opportunity for a mother, an aunt, a grandmother, a friend to be able to take this lesson and say, sis, you got to watch this lesson. This is going to help you with your child. You need this. You need this.
Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 6. And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thine heart.
Okay.
Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 7. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up.
Does that mean all the time?
All the time.
You're waking in the afternoon, in the evening, at dinner time, on the Sabbath, on Sunday, in the afternoon, on Friday, during homeschooling hours, when they get back from school, whenever, having a conversation. I was talking to a sister that I've been chatting with, and she's in Delaware. And she was telling me that her 12-year-old daughter has just been more and more, questioning of everything, the sun, the moon, the stars, people, things. She's been watching, observing, and she did a beautiful study with her daughter on the Sabbath on self-love. And we did a full study on that. How beautiful is that? Then the mother gets to sit down on the Sabbath and teach her daughter the scriptures around how to love yourself. When she told me that just touched my heart, and I was so grateful for her to be able to share that with me. A spiritual fornication that where Christianity is in, and I'm using that word fornication, this is a lot of that. The cross, the white Jesus, the false image,
Yeah.
false understanding of the truth. So I wanted to go to Wisdom of Solomon.
And Wisdom of Solomon 14, 12 through 14. For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication.
Hold it right there. That is it.
Oh.
We have our young people today, including ourselves, before we came into the truth, if we're still repenting, we're still cleansing ourselves, we're still needing to take care of our mind, our body, and spirit. That spiritual fornication, what we were believing then. I remember I had a frame of white Jesus in my dining room, and a brother came to our house to do, we had just started learning. This was about 6 years ago. And he looks and he laughs and he said, "Who do you think that is?" And he schooled us. We learned real quick who Christ is. We learned real quick. Right at that moment, he sat us down and he broke down the scriptures to us. And then I'm also watching how much Beyonce is a spiritual fornication. I heard she has her own church.
Oh, goodness.
I'm watching Hollywood becoming their own fornication and how much they're using us, our people, to convince, manipulate the mind through movies and music, fashion, everything to manipulate. And this is where this continue, sis, read that again, and then, finish up that one to 14.
12. For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication, and the invention of them, the corruption of life. For neither were they from the beginning, neither shall they be forever. For by the vain glory of men they entered into the world, and therefore they shall come shortly to an end.
Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4 says, "And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord." And when you provoke your children to wrath, that's to anger, right? Provoke them to anger.
Yeah.
But bring them up in the nurture, training, the discipline, the correction, the chastening, just like the Most High did with us.
And how do we nurture? And how do we bring them up? And how do we make sure that they learn? Start at verse 1, sis.
Hi. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor thy father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise.
It's the what?
The first commandment with promise.
It's the what?
The first commandment with promise. The first. That it might be well with thee, and thou mayest live long on the earth.
Yes. There are children who are not receiving this understanding confused about what it means to obey their parents, not understand that their parents righteously are telling them this to save their life.
Okay.
All right, Proverbs 23:13-14. Withhold not correction from the child, for if thou beatest him with the rod, he shall not die. Thou shalt beat him with the rod, he shall deliver his soul from hell.
Con. Now, I read this a couple times, and whoever's watching this may be adding some correction to us after this whole study. But the Most High gave a very strict instruction on how we are to discipline our children if we're going to be using verse 13 and 14. And this can take us to also verse 23. If you can jump to verse 23, Sister Yeshaya.
23 and 24.
23 and yeah, let's add 24. Why not? All praises.
Proverbs 23, and 24. Buy the truth and sell it not. Also wisdom and instruction and understanding. The father of the righteous shall greatly rejoice, and he that begetteth a wise child shall have joy of him.
And what kind of father?
Of righteous, a father of the righteous, a righteous father.
And what kind of child?
A wise child, a wise child.
And I don't want to go too in depth into this because this might be a whole separate study on its own, but the Most High says, hit them on the side.
Right.
Specifically, he gives instruction. So when we go back to Psalms 28, he's telling us the law, the commandment, the instruction, right? So the whole book, our lovely King James Version, maybe 1611, Apocrypha, is full of instruction. But there's a world with misunderstanding, confusion, and a different kind of instruction, which is keeping our children's minds thinking of things that are inaccurate. Children, and I'm emotional about this because I work so deeply with children that are struggling, and the families are struggling and have no understanding of how important the Most High is. And then when I get to be with my righteous sisters and I hear about how they're growing and learning and working with their children and their families in order with their husbands or without, and so on and so forth, this begins us to be able to stay together and help each other, support each other, and guide each other, and be able to use these words to bring back to those. If we're in the grocery store and we see a sister and, sis, it's all right, and be able to use the simple language, simple words.
So Ecclesiasticus chapter 30, verse 7, and this is in your Apocrypha, sisters. He that maketh too much of his son shall bind up his wounds, and his bowels will be troubled at every city.
Ooh, sis, break it down.
So what I'm getting from that when I read that before is, we like to put our children on pedestals. We always praising them, or they could do no wrong and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, we're not looking at what they're actually doing. And we're not taking accountability for that. We're brushing that to the side, right? So his bowels will be troubled at every cry, at every cry. So now when it's time to actually chastise your child, it's like this big old, like, what are you doing type of thing. Like he's in awe. He's in awe because I've never gotten chastised for this. I
Mhm.
never get punished. I get away with everything, is what the child is thinking. So, you know, um, in verse 8, a horse not broken becometh headstrong. A child left to himself will be willful. So it's going into the same thing again. You have to bow down that child and train that child. That's why the book says, train up a child, like we read in Deuteronomy. A horse not broken becometh headstrong. You making too much of your son, as it said, or daughter in verse 7, and not chastising them when you should have, but then trying
Uh,
to at the end. They're already headstrong. They're already, what they say in the world, you grown, you already, what is it? You already growing in your ways or something.
mhm,
You already stuck in your ways.
mhm.
You're stuck in your ways now. And a child left to mischief will be willful, because we're not doing our jobs here as parents and following these instructions, right? Verse 9 says, conquer thy child, and he shall make thee afraid. Am I saying that right? Conquer thy child,
Conquer thy child.
and he shall make thee afraid. Play with him, and he will bring thee to heaviness.
Mm.
And I'm gonna just break it down in layman's terms like this. When, for
Yes.
us Hispanic Black parents, we don't want to be playing around like, that's exactly the words we use. I ain't playing with you. Yeah, they say no playtime. There's a time to play and there's a time to be serious. Okay. And there's an action for, what you did. There's a consequence for what you did. Right. So conquer thy child, and he shall make thee afraid. Play with him, and he will bring thee to heaviness. He's gonna bring shame to you. Why you laughing now and thinking this twerking is cute while she 2 years old? Okay, when she start twerking when she 22 on that pole, we'll see how cute it is then. When you
Mhm.
giving your 4-year-old little Brandon a gun and let him shoot up the place on his, what they call these games these days, you know,
Yep.
and now he going out to go get a gun at 16 years old and hanging on the block because that's what he's been, it was cute.
Yep.
Okay. Verse 10, laugh not with him, lest thou have sorrow with him, and lest thou gnash thy teeth in the end. Verse 11, give him no liberty in his youth, and wink not at his follies. You got to stay on that behind. This is what we call training up. We have a job, a position as mothers, okay? Verse 12, bow down his neck while he is young
Mm.
and beat him on the sides. We just read that in Ephesians, what was it?
Yep.
We
In
just read that in
Proverbs
Proverbs.
23, 13 and 14 and 23.
He's telling you, listen, he's giving you the permission right here within the realm of
Yes.
how it's supposed to look. Because a
Con.
lot of our parents out here, they will take the switch and just wail, flail, and the child got marks from head to toe. And that is a no-no, right?
Correct.
They deserve that correction, but you're doing it the wrong way because you're not following the instructions,
That's right.
right? There's a way to do it, and that's when you're going to bring that child, like it says in Ephesians verse 4, provoke not that child to that wrath,
That's right.
because you're not following the book on how to correct that child. So that's how you're going to bring them to wrath. My mother used to abuse me. You can't blame that child for saying that because you didn't beat him on the sides. You beat him in his head. You know, um, bow down his neck while he's young, and beat him on the sides while he is a child, lest he wax stubborn. There go that stubbornness again,
Mm.
and he be disobedient unto thee. and so bring sorrow to thine heart.
Ooh.
Chastise thy son and hold him to labor, lest his lewd behavior be an offense unto thee. These are instructions. This is our children. We talk about how much we care for our children. This is how we care for them.
Mm-hmm. And that was beautiful because it tells us what will happen if we don't.
Right.
What kind of child are we going to have?
Monsters.
And that is not what we want. And
Genesis 8:21. And the Lord smelled a sweet savor. And the Lord said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground any more for man's sake. For the imagination of a man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I again smite any more everything living as I have done.
and that's the mind, the imagination affects our heart, our emotions, our behavior, our actions, our moods. The number one of the brothers did a really great study on an article on how racism and discrimination in the school system is causing our Israelite children, brown and black children, that was the article, having significant mental health issues because of what's going on there. So our children are already having this training in their mind of how they're not a child of God, how they are not worthy, how they're ugly, dumb, not creative, and all the words that come along with that false identity and what develops from that depression and anxiety and substance use, and they're not having the proper guidance. Thank you for this opportunity for me to provide these scriptures in the name of the Lord. And if we continue to keep training our minds and our hearts, then we'll be able to continue to be blessed and having children and our sisters come to us, and we can just continue to help serve the Lord in the proper way and help train our minds and our hearts to do exactly what the Most High needs. We're not perfect, we're human beings, and yet we're working so hard at reaching that level of perfection and that beauty of having that blessed mind and our blessed heart. And so again, I just so appreciate being here and being able to have an opportunity to share these words with you. And just want to say, I want to close out in blessing in this name, in Christ's name, amen.
Amen. All praises to the Most High. That was part one, sisters, of our Train Up a Child series. I do believe, Shilima, you said this part one would be I Leave to You, right? Model for motherhood. I enjoyed this lesson so much. I hope you sisters gleaned something from this. And please share with your other sisters, because we all need to be there for what it says. It takes a village to raise our children. So all praises to the Most High. Please join us again, Most High willing, same time, same place, same beauty. And with that, we say
Shalom.
Shalom.
all praises.
Shalom.
Love y'all. Love y'all.
Love you.